Would you like to hire 3 new stylists in the next 30 days, or maybe just one? All coming up on today's Profitable Salon Owner podcast. We're going to be talking all things hiring.
Salon owners are some of the most amazing people on planet Earth. The only problem is sometimes their hearts are so big and they give so much of themselves to their staff and guests that it creates unintended consequences. Our goal is to change the industry by elevating the way the rest of the world sees salons, spas, and barbershops and give it the credibility that it truly deserves. This is the Profitable Salon Owner Podcast.
Welcome to today's Profitable Salon Owner podcast. On with me today is Jason Everett. Welcome to the show, Jason.
What's up, Kayla? Good to have me on. Good to have you on. I don't know what's happening. You're running the show now. It's awesome to see you continue to rock with it. So yeah, good to be on the show today.
It's good to have you. I always love chatting and spilling your brains to the people who are listening. So thank you for those who are listening. Thank you for those who are watching. Hello.
Yeah.
Today, Jason, we're talking about hiring. It's a hot topic lately.
That is the topic, Kayla. Everybody, if I bumped into anybody on the street, I mean, I bump into a lot of salons on the street, but you know what I'm saying? Like if I'm at an event or something, people are like, I need to hire. That is my problem that most people are dealing with. And it's a big one. So if that's you, do me a favor, comment hire in the chat if you're like, I need to hire somebody immediately. Please let me know if that's your topic, because that's the topic people are asking us right now.
And I feel like no matter if you've been a salon owner for 2 years or 10 years, hiring's the topic. Like there's come and go.
I think a lot of people think right now that like there's nobody to hire, people don't want to work, there's just like you can't find people in a small town, all the good people have left, they've all gone to booth rental, or like there's some excuse that you're saying to yourself that even though you might have had some evidence for it, you believe it to be true and it's preventing you from hiring. So just in the same vein, I want to say, if you believe a lot of things to be true and you've had evidence that that's what you're dealing with, as long as you believe those things are true, you will never find somebody to work for you until you hear what we're talking about and you get rid of that old belief. So let's start there, and that'll clean up a lot of what we're.
I love that. And then people pull together and they tell each other, oh yeah, I'm having the same problem. So if other people are having the same beliefs, then you start to attach everybody else's beliefs onto yourself.
Think about this: if you're trying to date somebody and you're like, oh, I want to go find somebody to get married to, and you're like, but all the good ones are gone. There's no. Are you telling me out of 6 billion people on this planet that all the good ones are gone? No, you've met some jerks, whatever. Same thing with staff. It's the same thing. Is like out of the thousands of people that could potentially work for you, you either just haven't learned how to attract them properly, or you're not very good at filtering those people, or you just talk to a lot of frogs that need to be turned into princes. Like, don't worry about it. We'll get you there. We'll do it on the show.
We're going to teach you how to kiss some frogs today.
Sure.
All right, well, let's get into that
Check
process.
Check with HR if kissing frogs is appropriate, because it may not be in your local state. Anyway, continue.
Good disclaimer. Okay, well, let's get into it. So let's talk about before you start the hiring process. Like, what would be a good key elements of what to make sure is in place before you even post your job ad?
Yeah, well, this is why most people don't really attract people, is because they just post a job saying now hiring. I mean, you've probably driven around town and seen 1,000 signs that say now hiring. They're like, good news, we're hiring. And you're like, nobody cares. Like on any business, like you see McDonald's is hiring or Taco Bell, and you're like, great, I'm glad you're hiring. Who the hell works there? And you're like, well, it's not gonna be me, but thanks. And they're like, yeah, nobody wants to work. I'm like, because you're doing a horrible job of attracting people to your business. Do people know that it's an exciting job to work for? And I think this is a good example, like fast food. We're talking McDonald's, Taco Bell, or Chick-fil-A, or In-N-Out. People are like, man, I'd rather work at a Chick-fil-A because they have amazing leadership training, or at an In-N-Out Burger because they develop great leaders. Versus like Taco Bell's like, I guess if you could fog a mirror, you could work here, right? Like what you have to get clear about up front is what type of organization are you that somebody would want to work for you? That's what you got to get really clear about. It's like, what in our academy, we talk about your code of honor, your set of rules, like who you are as a company, what's your ethos, what's your mission, right? And you got to get really clear about like, what are you out to do? Because if you're just out to like, we give haircuts, that's what we do. Hey, cuts, if you know how to cut hair, come work here. Like, you might as well be at a carnival. Like, who cares? Yeah. Right? Or like a super cuts or whatever other random chain of salons that are, salon chains around you. So if you're no different than any other salon chain, why would I want to go work in your salon versus anywhere else? So you got to determine, like, what is it? Is it because we're about sustainability? Is it because we're about making people look as beautiful on the outside as they do on the inside? Is it about we're trying to, make a difference in the lives of moms in our area or dads in our area, or like we want to make men feel like they have a place to go instead of like some random salon? Like, what are you trying to accomplish with your business that will magnetically attract the right people to your business and say, man, that's it? There's a lot of businesses right now, and if you look at franchises, this is really important. If you look at franchises right now, there's some out there, and I don't endorse any of these. I'm just talking about them randomly. But like, there's one called like Hammer and Nail, and there's some like fine men's salons, right? And it's very clear that what they're about. Like they're about leather chairs, and like we'll get you a beer, and you're like whatever. There's also a sports. I don't even know the sports one. There's not sports clips, but like there's something like that where it's like they have TVs on in there, and they're trying to attract guys. And I only mention that as a fella. Like I know what the ones are out there, and like you got to decide who are you trying to attract to your salon. Right?
Mm.
If you're about sustainability, organic products, and whatever, are you about the coolest, hippest trends? Hippest, what am I, 100? But like whatever the trend, the hippest, 1963 called. They want their term back. But like you got to decide who are you, and who are you trying to attract to your business? Because if you're just a random salon, not as attractive. When somebody's like, well, if I'm comparing to this salon to that salon, here's what I want to know: how much are you going to pay me? And that's the number one question you will get when people perceive you as a generic salon. You know who doesn't have to ask, how much are you going to pay me? Somebody who knows they're the biggest, best, most amazing salon that'll help you earn 6 figures a year and get you to a 6-figure take-home earner. I was just looking at our list of people for our upcoming event. We're doing an event in Philadelphia, and we have an award for our 6-figure earners, right? And so it's going to be this huge deal. And like we have this giant list of all these people who take home 6 figures, take home 6 figures. And it just reminded me, like, how many 6-figure earners work at that salon? If there's none, maybe you don't want to work there. If there's 10, maybe you want to work there. So be clear about who you are and who you're attracting first. I think it's one of the most critical steps, is what makes you unique and different.
I like that, because then when you get clear about who you are as a salon, and then you market yourself like that, you're automatically attracting people who are perfect for your salon. So if you're just generic, then you're going to attract generic, and then it's not going to be, and your turnover is going to be a whole lot higher.
100%. I mean, you know, Kayla, from working with us, like, you know, we are not a normal business. Like, we are anything but normal, and like we are high stress and we are high energy, but we get a lot of things done. And we have a really good time doing it, and we play really hard. We do really cool things, right? Like if I just said you're going to work your face off and it's going to be crazy and stressful all the time, you'd be like, cool, sounds fun. But if you're like, yeah, but we do that, and we do incredible things, and we change people's lives, and we do whatever, like, you want to get involved with what we do. I have people blow me up all the time. Like, I don't care what it is, Jason, I just want to work with you. And I'm like, that's what you want. You want people to work there regardless. And then the job is just part of it. That's the whole point.
Nice. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the setup before, like getting your salon ready to, like, one, be clear on what you want, what kind of culture you even have. If you're not clear on your own culture, then maybe you start there before you even start hiring.
Yeah, get your culture right is the first one. The second one is make sure you get clear about who you want to hire. We call it an avatar. Like, get really clear. Like, before we hired you, we're like, okay, who do we want to have? What should they look like? And not like, what hairstyle should they have, or do they dress cool like you do? But the goal would be like, who do we want as a person? What personality, what skill sets, what traits, you know, are they honest and trustworthy? Like, we got really clear on that. And then we went out to go find that type of person. I think salons very often get that wrong. And they're just like, wasn't it just somebody who graduated from beauty school? I'm like, well, you know, they got 20 candidates coming out of the beauty school in your area. And like, you want to pick the best of the best. Only the 1 or 2 that are exactly the fit for your salon. That's the second best thing, is making sure you have the right fit for the staff who's coming on your team, and get clear about that in advance.
So know who you're looking for, and like that's great. Well, cool. I'm glad I made the cut for all those things. What a great avatar you created for me to find me.
You created a new avatar, Kayla.
Nice.
We burned the old avatar.
Nice. Now, so see, and that's good. You look for what you're looking for, and then somebody can come in, blow you away. That's awesome. So so now you're ready to hire, and you are clear on your culture. You're clear on your avatar, and then what are some common mistakes? Like, let's go into like their hiring process. What are some mistakes that people start to make in the process of hiring?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they don't, well, okay, here's what happens. You try to hire people, and then you get really bitter in the hiring process. Ooh. People no-show you. You know, you're like, I booked an appointment. People don't even want to show up. And I see the whininess. I'm going to say whininess. There was another word I was going to use. I'm going to say whininess. Yeah, thanks for editing yourself, Jason. Yeah. I see the whininess in groups. They're like, who are these idiots who don't even want to show up to their appointments, and people want to vent. And I get that you want to vent, but like, you're actually building a story in your head by venting out loud. Meaning, if you're saying like, hey, you know, nobody wants to work, and you know, everybody's idiots out there, and like, who are these morons that want to work for me? Why do you think anybody would want to work for that type of person that like just says everybody who's an idiot? You have to like completely turn around your mindset and be like, I'm so glad that person didn't show up. They clearly were not the right fit.
Ooh.
Like if they're not even going to take the time to show up, then that wasn't the right fit for us. And I'm glad I saved the time on the interview to screen. Do you see how just that mindset of like those idiots that they have their problem versus, man, I dodged a bullet. I'm glad they didn't show up to the first appointment instead of waiting till the last appointment and then ghosting me. So you got to change your mindset and be like, the right person's out there. I just have to keep looking. And yes, you're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs before you get to a prince or vice versa or whatever you're looking for. But the idea is that you want to make sure your mindset is right. So the problem is people come out of desperation because they put out a job ad and they only get 2 people to apply. It's because you suck at writing job ads. Like, just being really honest, like, you suck. It's not that there's nobody out there, and there might be less people out there. But like, if there's only 10 people in your town that might qualify, you sure as heck better get we get 8 of those 10 to apply for your position. And if only 1 or 2 apply because you wrote a pretty generic ad. So the other thing is attracting the right person. But I think most people, again, write poor job ads, and then they start beating themselves up about hiring. And then when they interview, they kind of go into it with that attitude, like, all right, yeah, so what are you not good at? Like, you start with this bitter chip on your shoulder. And so the other thing I think people do is they wing it when they go to interviews. You know me, I'm like the master of winging it. I will wing anything. I don't like to wing interviews. Like, what's really funny? I have had a set of interview questions I've used for over 20 years to hire people. A lot of the interview questions I asked you in your interview process is like, I've used a lot of those same questions for 20 years. And like, I kind of get twitchy if I don't have my interview questions in front of me because I know those questions really work. And so I go through a process of like, what are the first couple questions that I want? What are the next set of questions? And I have different questions for different stages of the interview.
Like the phone call versus the in-person.
Yeah, like I start with a video, and you know how we do that. But like, we usually start people with a video interview, so they just send over a quick little 2-minute snippet, like 3 basic questions, and we do a phone interview to like measure for like friendliness and niceness and things like that. I'm like, all right, they have some skill, they have some niceness, like let's take them to in person. Then I just want to see how they interact with another human. And then I get into skill set. So I have a very specific phase. And like, that's the only thing I don't wing is I don't wing interviews. Of all the things I do, I don't wing it because I just have found there's a process that works and I don't mess with the system.
Yeah. And we've hired some pretty cool people. So
we have, but by that same token, can I also say, Kayla, and you know this, we've hired some people that didn't work out. Yeah. And that's okay. I think, I heard somebody say this the other day, don't let your ego get tied up in your hires. And I love how this guy said it. He said, everybody thinks they're great at hiring. Nobody's good at hiring. Like, nobody's good at it. So just like, be okay. And he was just saying, he said, I hired somebody who's the highest end hire I ever had. I thought they were amazing. I thought it was the best hire I ever made. And like the first week on the job, I found out they were an a-hole to everybody. I had to fire them the very first week. And so what happens, we get hung up in these hires where we like think we've got the best person on planet Earth. And then because our ego thinks that we're so good at hiring, that we then keep that person way too long. I think that's the thing I've had to learn as a business owner now is like, I need to get better at letting people go when they're the wrong fit earlier, because I just was like, well, I spent all this time interviewing them. It was a lot of time wasted if I let them go. But if they're the wrong fit, they're the wrong freaking fit. Do you want to be stuck with that person for 10 more years? I don't.
More mistakes will come down the road. Like if we always say, what do you guys say? Slow to hire, quick to fire,
hire,
or something
slow,
like
fire
that.
Fast. Hire slow, fire fast. But I actually would say sometimes you have to hire fast. If you're growing, you have to hire fast. But I would say hire fast, fire fast, and don't let your ego get attached to the outcome.
We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the process of hiring those people and what to look for and how to balance between people who are skilled versus people with personality, all sorts of things. So stay tuned. We'll see you in a second.
Hey, HPSA listeners, let me ask you this. Are you tired of not knowing what your hair color is costing you on every appointment and watching it chew up your profit? Well, with Salon Scale, we take the guesswork out for you. Using a mobile app paired with a Bluetooth scale, Salon Scale will tell you exactly what your color is costing you on every bowl mix down to the gram. As you mix, Salon Scale will also digitally store your formulas and track how much product is being used in real time, so you can manage your inventory, cover your expenses, and generate more profit in your salon. Use promo code HPSA10 to get 10% off an annual subscription. Salon Scale, the new standard for mixing color.
Welcome back to the Profitable Salon Owner podcast. We have been talking about all things hiring. If you missed the first half, go back and watch it. We talked about what to prepare for, what to do before you hire, and just all the good things. Now we're going to start talking about the candidates and how to process and weed through the people that come in and are in through the interview process. Yeah. So Jason, talk to me about like, how do you first, like, what's your first initial like narrow down choices? Like what do you think is the first thing to look for in people?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when you're looking at resumes or doing videos, like, I want to know they have the skill for what I'm looking for. Like, you know, obviously, if you're talking about beauty school, did they go to beauty school? How long ago was it? What's going on? I think you have to decide in the hiring process in a salon and spa, you have to decide, are you looking for somebody who has a lot of experience and that has skill ready to just like walk in the position? But remember, that person can sometimes come with a lot of baggage, like from their last position. They have a lot of knowledge, but they also probably have a lot of bad habits. So would you rather untrain someone's bad habits, which in my opinion is really hard, or would you rather take somebody fresh out of school that's going to take a little bit longer to launch, but you can train them and condition them the way that you want? So you got to get clear about those two things when you bring somebody on. When you're looking, so like that's part of the initial avatar creation process is who do you want? Do you want somebody who's been around for a while that can come on? And I think a lot of people make this determination. They're like, I want to grow really quickly. And so they end up bringing somebody with a lot of experience, but then they get mad that person is like, you know, doesn't listen to them and does whatever they want. And then they leave them on a whim. And I'm like, well, they left another salon on a whim to come to your salon. Like, of course, you know what I mean? Yeah. So you just got to determine like, what is that scenario? Like, I don't know. Yeah. I was going to give some other dating advice, but like dating advice from Jason. Welcome to the show. We're talking dating talk. Nice. What I was going to say is like, let's say you want to get married and be married forever. You might not want to date somebody who's been divorced 6 times. Like just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that can't happen. I mean, I know plenty of people that's happened for, but it's harder than you think. Right. Yeah. So you might want to at least start with building a good relationship. That's all. And again, not knocking anybody's been divorced. I'm just saying in general, I like starting with fresh out of school people that we can train and cultivate and turn into. And again, even in most of the positions that we have in our office, these are a lot of positions where people grew into their position. They had some skill, they had some knowledge, but really they had the right attitude. And then we like grew them into amazing people. That's how you should have it. And occasionally I will hire somebody for experience only at a level, but then I want them to grow too. So I want to make sure even the experienced person, if you're going to hire them, has a lot of knowledge. And that's what you get through the interview process, not through screening. Through the interview screening, not through the resume screening. That you'd want to determine if that person who has a lot of experience is still looking to grow.
Nice. So you would say like when you go to hire, part of even the avatar process that we talked about earlier, like know who you need for your salon. Like if you have a lot of fresh people and you need somebody with more experience, or like just know who you're looking for. So when you even go in the hiring process, like you know which candidates you're looking for. Like how would you balance keeping people who are fresh from school versus having some experience? Like is it good to have a balance of both?
There's actually what we do. We have a training inside the academy about hiring that talks about a bell curve. You want to make sure if you know what a bell curve is, like looks like a bell, like we're going to Philly, the Liberty Bell, right? So it goes up and down on both sides. So what you want to do is you want to have some newbies and some veterans with a lot of people in the middle. That's what you're looking for. You want to have a good balance of that, because if you do that and you're not over heavy with a bunch of veterans or over heavy with too many new people, that's kind of what you're looking for. Is you want people mostly in the middle. So if you're heavy on new people, like you want to develop some veterans. It doesn't mean go out and hire the veterans. It just means you want to develop people into that role. Yes. Does that help?
So when you're bringing on veterans, like say you're hiring people who are experienced, like what is an important, like, because they're going to come with all their own ways. Yeah. Their own ways that they've done things before. How do you get clear on who you are as a salon so that when they come in, they still follow your process of who you are as a salon? Yeah.
So I have some criteria that we use to filter people for the academy. We use it for people who work for us. And I would highly recommend you use the same thing. You can write these down if you're not driving, or you're not like out on a jog or whatever you do when you're listening to a podcast. But what I would say is you're high energy. Okay. So this is us. High energy, ambitious, and humble enough to learn. Right? So high energy, ambitious, and humble enough to learn. So, I've met plenty of people who are high energy, but they're not very ambitious. I've met plenty of people who are high energy and ambitious, but are not humble. And I met plenty of people who are humble, but not ambitious. So you have to kind of look at all those things and say, well, wait a second, like who do I have on my team? And I would say, Kayla, you kind of know who's on the team that's like high energy, humble, and ambitious. Like I'll take feedback. I want to grow. I want to do some big things. And like, I'm high energy. And because you gravitate towards those people, right? When you're that type of person, you're like, you're my people, let's do it. And so that's what you want to determine is if like, maybe your salon is different. Maybe your salon is like, I want somebody to be mellow, chill, and excited or whatever. I said mellow, chill, and excited. Mellow, chill, and ambitious, or whatever it is. I don't know. Mellow, chill, and servant-minded. That's what I'll say.
Nice.
You got to determine what your aspect is for your business, and then go out and find more people like that. Because if I'm a high energy, ambitious, motivated, humble person, and I come on your team and you're interested in mellow, calm, chill vibes, I will not fit into your salon. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It just means like I'm not the right fit for your salon, right? Yeah. So I think whether you're hiring a new hire straight out of school or you're hiring a veteran person, you're looking for that. Because I find lots of veterans that are still looking to grow and want to figure out what's going on. They're like, yeah, I'm earning 6 figures right now, but I want to get to $200,000 a year. Like I really want to bump that up, and like I'm willing to learn and I'm humble. That's a great person to have on your team. If they're saying, I know I have a lot of mistakes, if you can help me clean them up, I'm good. Versus like, yeah, I can come into your salon and bring a bunch of business. Not the same.
Yeah. I'm noticing like a common denominator of all the advice that we've been talking about today is like just having such a big point on the attitude that you have when you're going through the hiring process of staying positive. And I love how you keep saying like, then they're just not the right fit for you. Like just because you have a bad experience with the hiring, you think one thing, like, okay, then they don't fit good in your salon. And I love keeping that mindset for hiring is if they don't show up to their interview, it wasn't a good fit, and just keeping that positive spin to mostly even focus on your own mindset as you're going through the hiring process, since we know that hiring is a struggle from now until forever.
It will be. Yeah. I don't think that any form of AI is ever going to fix that problem. I think hiring will always still be a challenge, but there's ways to make it better and make the process better. Like learn those and move forward. I think it's helpful.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So we've talked a lot about a lot of things. I have a couple other questions. So let's talk a little bit about retention and how to like retain staff. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Like reduce churn of your staff, like people you're losing.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I was going to say, it's kind of funny. I'm going to talk about churning on purpose for a second. Can I throw a wrench in your question?
Yes, please.
What I just said about, high energy, ambitious, and humble staff, that should be a yardstick for you to check your existing staff against too. Is like some people, and this is why I'm mentioning retention, I'll get there, I promise, is that a lot of times people have a hard time retaining people because they're keeping the wrong ones and the right ones leave. Okay.
Oh.
So here's what I mean. Let's say you have somebody on your team that's a grouchy a-hole, and like they're mean to everybody. They're mean to the new people. Like they've been around a long time, and you keep them on the staff because they're veterans, and they bailed you out of a jam 20 years ago, and like you're still paying them back. Yeah. Well, that person is actually driving other people away. And in my organization, I've seen that in the last 15 years. Like I kept people on the team way too long that people would kind of come in and just be like, oh, if that type of person works here, I don't want to be there long term. And they would leave. And so, sometimes that's the longest term person's been on your team. And this is really, really hard. But I was just coaching 2 gals on this exact subject in our CEO program. And they were telling me, they're like, man, we've stripped down. They were like, they had gone from like 8 staff members down to 3. They had like come in and they were in one of our programs, and I was like, oh my gosh. And obviously it's not like we told them like get rid of all your staff. But what happened is they churned through all their staff, and then like they were their 4th person, they were down to 3 at the end, but like their 4th person who left, I'm like, hey, tell me about that person. Were they an awesome person that should have fit your staff? They're like, oh God, no, they were terrible. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, tell me about your salon. They told me about what their salon was about, whatever. And I said, did that person who just left, number 4 that left, did they embody everything about the salon? They said, actually, they eye rolled us every time we talked about that. And I was like, well, welcome to the gift from the universe, because you weren't able to retain those other people that were the right fit because you were hanging on too desperately to the wrong fit. And I think that's one of the problems that people experience is that they're so desperate to keep their numbers up. Like they want to be seen as a big salon. So they keep that high income earner, even though they're the wrong fit, and they actually drive the other people away. What I've seen is when you make a smart decision, like letting go of somebody who's just like, hey, how do I handle that person? They're not showing up on time. They're not doing what I ask them to, whatever. And you're like, we need to part ways, even if it's a giant income producer. And that's what everybody hates, right? But a lot of times I find that people are overpaying them in commission and all kinds of stuff. I had another salon owner I was dealing with. We had this issue and we're like, you need to let that person go. And she's like, no, they're one of my top earners. It's going to take $200,000 off my revenue this year. She let her go, and she called me back and she was like, Jason, within 1 month, we were back up to the level of earning we were with that person who was not here because everybody else stepped up. That all the people who were being like smothered by that wrong fit person, they made up all the slack, and they didn't even notice that their largest income producer had left. And it's so funny because I talk to people all the time that are freaking out about their largest income producer leaving. And I'm like, was it the perfect fit person or were they just high income? Because high income doesn't mean best fit. And almost every time that happens, where the rest of the staff makes up the income within 1 to 3 months, and people freak out. And I'm like, don't worry, I've been here before. It's all good. It's called the Valley of Insight. You have insights to realize that person was an a-hole and you need to let him go. We call it in the academy. It's called fire to fly. Is it we have a training on that called fire to fly. And it's like, who do you need to let go of that would let you fly if you just kind of took that anchor out?
Wow. I love that. Wow. Well, thank you, Jason. This has been very informative.
No problem. Wow, this has been helpful.
Yeah, I learned so many things. I like it. I always learn so many things. I love that when I get to end the podcast, I learn just as much. If you learned something, comment, learned something. And if you want to tell me what you learned, I would love to know. And join our Profitable Salon Owner Facebook group if you want to hang out with us and ask your questions. We'd love to answer those. Thank you, Jason, for being on with us today.
Yeah, no problem.
It's been
guys,
fun.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, do me a favor, guys, subscribe. If you've not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you subscribe. It does help us, believe it or not, is like people can find us. The more people who subscribe, even if you only just like this episode and you haven't liked any other ones, do me a favor.
just this one.
Yeah, just this one. But do me a favor and subscribe. And if you can leave us a review, that goes a long way too. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Okay,
talk
to you later. See you next time on Profitable Salon Owner Podcast.
Bye for now. You've been listening to the Profitable Salon Owner Podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a review, and check us out at profitablesalon.com for more episodes, content, and to help you turn your salon into the business you've always dreamt of.